Hello again. I'm here with my anonymous friend, LL, forever to not be named. And we're going to read the Grimm's brothers story, Bearskin, comment on it a little bit, maybe along the way, and discuss it afterwards. There was once upon a time a young fellow who enlisted for a soldier and became so brave and courageous that he always was in the front ranks when it rained blue beans. As long as the war lasted, all went well. But when peace was concluded, he received his discharge, and the captain told him he might go where he liked. His parents, meanwhile, had died, and as he had no longer any home to go to, he paid a visit to his brothers and asked them to give him shelter until war broke out again. His brothers, however, were hard-hearted and said, "What could we do with you? We could make nothing of you. See to what you have brought yourself," and so turned a deaf ear. The poor soldier had nothing but his musket left, so he mounted this on his shoulder and set out on a tramp. By and by he came to a great heath with nothing on it but a circle of trees, under which he sat down, sorrowfully considering his fate. "I have no money," thought he. "I have learnt nothing but soldiering, and now, since peace is concluded, there is no need of me. I see well enough I shall have to starve." All at once he heard a rustling, and as he looked round he perceived a stranger standing before him, dressed in a grey coat, who looked very stately, but had an ugly cloven foot. "I know quite well what you need," said this being. "Gold and other possessions you shall have, much as you can spend. But first I must know whether you are a coward or not, that I may not spend my money foolishly." "A soldier and a coward," replied the other, "that cannot be. You may put me to any proof." "Well then," replied the stranger, "look behind you." The soldier turned and saw a huge bear, which eyed him very ferociously. "Oh ho!" cried he, "I will tickle your nose for you, and that you shall no longer be able to grumble." And raising his musket, he shot the bear in the forehead, so that he tumbled in a heap upon the ground, and did not stir afterward. Thereupon the stranger said, "I see quite well that you are not wanting in courage, but there is yet one condition which you must fulfill." "If it does not interfere with my future happiness," said the soldier, who had remarked who it was that addressed him. "If it does not interfere with that, I shall not hesitate." "That you must see about yourself," said the stranger. "For the next 7 years you must not wash yourself, nor comb your hair nor beard. Neither must you cut your nails, nor say one paternoster. That I will give you this coat and mantle, which you must wear during these 7 years. And if you die within that time, you are mine. But if you live, you are rich and free all your life long." The soldier reflected for a while on his great necessities, and, remembering how often he had braved death, he at length consented and ventured to accept the offer. Thereupon the evil one pulled off the gray coat, handed it to the soldier, and said, "If you at any time search in the pockets of your coat when you have it on, you will always find your hand full of money." Then also he pulled off the skin of the bear and said, "That shall be your cloak and your bed. You must sleep on it, and not dare to lie in any other bed. And on this account you shall be called Bearskin." Immediately the evil one disappeared. The soldier now put on the coat, and, dipping his hands into his pockets to assure himself of the reality of the transaction, then he hung the bearskin round himself, and went about the world chuckling at his good luck, and buying whatever suited his fancy which money could purchase. For the first year his appearance was not very remarkable, but in the second he began to look quite a monster. His hair covered almost all his face, his beard appeared like a piece of dirty cloth, his nails were claws, and his countenance was so covered with dirt that one might have grown cresses upon it if one had sown seed. Whoever looked at him ran away, but because he gave the poor in every place gold coin, they prayed that he might not die during the 7 years, and because he paid liberally everywhere, he found a night's lodging without difficulty. In the fourth year he came to an inn where the landlord would not take him in, and refused to even give him a place in his stables, lest the horses should be frightened and become restive. However, when Bearskin put his hand into his pocket and drew it out full of gold ducats, the landlord yielded the point and gave him a place in the outbuildings, but not till he had promised that he would not show himself, for fear the inn should gain a bad name. While Bearskin sat by himself in the evening, wishing from his heart that the 7 years were over, he heard in the corner a loud groan. Now the old soldier had a compassionate heart, so he opened the door and saw an old man an old man weeping violently and wringing his hands. Bearskin stepped nearer, but the old man jumped up and tried to escape. But when he recognized a human voice, he let himself be persuaded, and by kind words and soothings on the part of the old soldier, he at length disclosed the cause of his distress. His property had dwindled away by degrees, and he and his daughters would have to starve, for he was so poor that he had not the money to pay the host, and would therefore be put into prison. If you have no care except that, replied Bearskin, I have money enough, and caused the landlord to be called. He paid him and put a purse full of gold besides into the pocket of the old man. The latter, when he saw himself released from his troubles, knew not how to be sufficiently grateful, and said to the soldier, Come with me. My daughters are all wonders of beauty, so choose one of them for a wife. When they hear what you have done for me, they will not refuse you. You appear certainly an uncommon man, but they will soon put you to rights. The speech pleased Bearskin, and he went with the old man. As soon as the eldest daughter saw him, she was so terrified at his countenance that she shrieked out and ran away. The second one stopped and looked at him from head to toe, but at last she said, How can I take a husband who has not a bit of a human countenance? The grizzly bear would have pleased me better, who came to see us once, and gave himself out as a man, for he wore a hussar's hat and had white gloves on besides. But the youngest daughter said, Dear father, this must be a good man who has assisted you out of your troubles. If you have promised him a bride for the service, your word must be kept. It was a pity the man's face was covered with dirt and hair, else one would have seen how glad at heart these words made him. Bearskin took a ring off his finger, broke it in two, and giving the youngest daughter one half, he kept the other for himself. On her half he wrote his name, and on his own he wrote hers, and begged her to preserve it carefully. Thereupon he took leave, saying, For 3 years longer I must wander about. If I come back again, then we will celebrate our wedding. But if I do not, you are free, for I shall be dead. But pray to God that he will preserve my life. When he was gone, the poor bride clothed herself in black, and whenever she thought of her bridegroom, burst into tears. From her sisters she received nothing but scorn and mocking. Pay great attention when he shakes your hand, said the eldest, and you will see his beautiful claws. Take care, said the second. Bears are fond of sweets, and if you please him, he will eat you up, perhaps. You must mind and do his will, continued the eldest, or he will begin growling. And the second daughter said further, But the wedding will certainly be merry, for bears dance well. The bride kept silent, and would not be drawn from her purpose by all these taunts. And meanwhile Bearskin wandered about in the world, doing good where he could, and giving liberally to the poor, for which they prayed heartily for him. At length the last day of the 7 years approached, and Bearskin went and sat down on the heath beneath a circle of trees. In a very short time the wind whistled, and the evil one presently stood before him and looked at him with a vexed face. He knew the soldier his old coat and demanded he threw the soldier his old coat and demanded the gray one back. We have not got so far as that yet, replied Bearskin. You must clean me first. Then the evil one had, whether he liked it or no, to fetch water, wash the old soldier, comb his hair out, and cut his nails. This done, he appeared again like a brave warrior, and indeed was much handsomer than before. As soon as the evil one had disappeared, Bearskin became quite light-hearted, and going into the nearest town, he bought a fine velvet coat and hired a carriage drawn by 4 white horses, in which he was driven to the the house of his bride. Nobody knew him. The father took him for some celebrated general and led him into the room where his daughters were. He was compelled to sit down between the two eldest, and they offered him wine and heaped his place with the choicest morsels, for they thought they had never seen anyone so handsome before. But the bride sat opposite to him, dressed in black, neither opening her eyes nor speaking a word. At length the soldier asked the father if he would give him one of his daughters to wife, and immediately the two elder sisters rose and ran to their chambers to dress themselves out in their most becoming clothes, for each thought she should be chosen. Meanwhile, the stranger, as soon as he found himself alone with his bride, pulled out the half of the ring and threw it into a cup of wine, which he handed across the table. She took it, and as soon as she had drunk it and seen the half ring lying at the bottom, her heart beat rapidly, and she produced the other half, which she wore round her neck on a riband. She held them together, and they joined each other exactly. And the stranger said, I am your bridegroom, whom you first saw as Bearskin, but through God's mercy I have regained my human form, and am myself once more. With these words he embraced and kissed her, and at the same time the two eldest sisters entered in full costume. As soon as they saw that the very handsome man had fallen to the share of their youngest sister, and heard that he was the same as Bearskin, they ran out of the house full of rage and jealousy. So that's the ending in some versions. In another version, it ends like this. After he gave her a kiss, in the meantime, the two sisters came back in full dress, and when they saw that the handsome man had fallen to the share of the youngest, and heard that he was Bearskin, they ran out full of anger and rage. One of them drowned herself in the well, and the other hanged herself on a tree. In the evening, someone knocked at the door, and when the bridegroom opened it, it was the devil in his green coat, who said, You see, I have now got two souls in the place of your one. So yeah, there's some differences in the two versions that we have here, but both of them seem to have this part where when the devil approaches him, he knows that it's the devil, and so when the devil makes the proposal to him, he says, "Okay, yeah, I'll go along with this as long as it does not interfere with my future happiness." So he understands, these bargains that people make with the devil often are not worth it. But he seems to be saying up front, well, yeah, but overall, like it has to have a happy ending. And then, yeah,
Mm.
I'll go along with what you're saying. But in the version that I just read, without the part with the sisters dying, um, the it his last encounter with the devil is one where he's humiliating the devil. He wins. The devil doesn't get to corrupt a soul and then to take it down to hell, but instead has to reward the virtue and the persistence of someone. And then, the cherry on top is he has to wash this guy,
Mm.
this humiliating ritual. But
Yeah.
in the version you have, he still gets his revenge. He still gets to punish. There are still two people in the story who have, you know,
Mm.
destroyed themselves, and then
Mm.
he gets two souls.
Yeah. And in their story, I think the devil kind of tries to kind of challenge the soldier like with his weaknesses because the soldier was already kind of feeling ostracized and isolated
Yeah,
from coming back from war and kind of having no purpose in life.
yeah, and
Or yeah,
rejected. His parents are dead. He has no
yeah,
home.
yeah,
Uh, and then his
yeah,
brothers reject him and embarrass him and call him useless, and then he
mm,
feels useless and poor. Yeah, and that is when evil can come to you, right? That is when the crisis can
Hmm.
happen in
Yeah.
life, right?
Yeah. And
It
the
is a crisis.
challenges he's giving him are kind of furthering that kind of ostracized feeling because he can't shower, he can't or appear as a normal human being. So kind
Yeah.
of separating him from society again. Um,
Yeah, that's right.
and that for someone who's already struggling with that, that'd be very difficult to for most people to keep up with for seven
Yeah,
years.
that's right. But as the story shows, he has courage. He doesn't, for society, he doesn't have skills. He has skills for combating other societies, for protecting that society. But yeah, it's peacetime now, so he seems useless. But he has developed this relentless courage that he proves really quickly by killing the bear, and uh, and he uses that to persist now in his. Is it a religious quest? I mean, it is a little bit like, I don't know, a pilgrimage or something. He travels around as a mendicant. Well, not as a mendicant, actually. He's actually giving money, but in a way, he is
Mhm,
like a traveling monk or something because he's
mhm,
having to pay this penance, but for his future.
mhm. Yeah, and I guess ultimately, like outside of society, kind of the devil's kind of trying to separate him from kind of divinity or God too. Since at
Yeah,
least in the
being
version I
dirty.
had, he said he can't say even an a Pater Noster, so he can't pray or say an Our Father either in that in those 7 years.
Oh,
Um,
it said that in the version I read too, I think, and
okay,
I didn't know what that meant. Okay.
yeah,
Wow. So
yeah,
so he has to truly be wretched. He has to look
mm,
wretched, feel wretched, be treated wretchedly, and he cannot pray for any sort of solace, no connection with
mm,
God.
mm. So yeah, he's kind of trying to create kind of a hell on earth for him, since
Right.
hell ultimately is a separation from God. It's
Yeah.
not necessarily just fire as we envision it, but or
Yeah.
anything like that.
Yeah. This does remind me also of maybe many servicemen coming back from war and feeling ostracized and sometimes, letting themselves go physically to some extent, like growing the hair long and everything
Mm,
as like an opposite thing of what they had to do when they were in the service.
mhm,
And maybe it's kind of like a grief kind of thing or yeah, some kind of there's also maybe some aspect of like a psychological kind of reintegration in some way.
mhm,
And for a while you're kind of letting it all go, kind of relaxing in some way, kind of not
mhm,
not having strict rules and having to use skills a lot,
mhm,
kind of letting it all go.
mhm. And so yeah, like you said, like in this time when most people would probably become more wretched because of just how difficult that is, he's still like a chooses to be a compassionate person
Yeah,
and help people when he can with the
that's right.
money the code is making.
That's right. Yeah, helping people all the time.
Mhm,
Yeah. Yeah, he saves someone from prison, he saves the guy at the inn
mhm,
who ends up having the beautiful daughters.
mhm,
So he puts on the devil's green coat, right?
mhm,
And he puts on the bearskin and he wanders around that way for 7 years. Putting on
mhm,
the bearskin, I mean, that makes him seem more yeah, wild and and frightening, a monster or something like
mhm.
that. But
Yeah.
it's also the skin of something that he killed. It's a sign of his courage, but and his violence. It's
Mhm,
almost like you wonder if it's sometimes maybe like a soldier coming back and there's various psychological problems, or they're thinking of all the violence that they saw, the people that they killed, or something like that, maybe that weighs on them, like this bearskin is weighing on him in some way.
Mm, mm,
This story also reminds me of a story called The Scorned Princess, where it's a von Schoenworth story, not a Grimm's Brothers story, but this guy named Fortunatus, he comes back from the wars and he spreads his money around and becomes popular. And yeah, but it ends very differently where this princess wants him and he ends up destroying, he doesn't want her and he ends up destroying like her 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 city and like ruling the land as king. But this story is more he's more like a Christian mendicant or and he wanders around giving
mm,
alms and seemingly performing something like penance. And obviously, he's not the only one that is virtuous here. It's also his bride to be, who's you know who's like mourning his absence and the possibility of his death, and is when she thinks a very attractive suitor comes to their house that her sisters are all excited about, she doesn't even look at the person.
mm,
She's just thinking, she's still devoted to the one she was waiting for.
mm,
Although it was the time when the 7 years are up, so you'd think she might have kept track of that a little bit, but I don't know. Maybe she was still so lost in her grief. Anyway,
mm,
the story is just trying to convey her lostness and grief and you know her Penelope like loyalty to the wandering soldier. And that does maybe evoke Odysseus a little, just a little tiny bit.
yeah.
But yeah, you said the ending surprised you.
Yeah, since I wasn't expecting the sisters to kill themselves over that situation. Uh,
Yeah, yeah, that was a pretty extreme reaction.
mm,
I'm not sure. That just heightens maybe the emotion of it at the end. I mean, they run
mhm,
in both versions. They run out of the house, but yeah, in your
mhm,
version, it got a much more extreme. I mean, they had only met this person. I mean, maybe it just emphasizes just how how venal their hearts are, how jealous
yeah,
their hearts are. They don't want it's maybe a sign of they didn't it's not so much they loved the suitor as je- they have raging jealousy of their sister.
yeah. Like they loved feeling superior over her the whole
Yeah.
time.
Yeah,
Mm,
exactly. That's right. That's where their identity came from. And
mm,
then, yeah, and maybe they'd mocked her a lot of these 7 years, and then all
mm,
of a sudden it all comes true. And the type of relationship they couldn't hope to have with the hearts that they have is is shown to be there and more real than their non-existent fake relationships.
mm.
And that's just too much for them to bear, and they might as well end it there.
Yeah, and then the devil showing up saying he got two souls for one. That's kind of funny.
Yeah, it is. It is kind of funny in some of these stories that the devil is kind of like a little more humanized. You wouldn't really expect that.
Mm-hmm.
It's, in the ancient Greek and Roman mythologies, especially, not sort of later ones, but their gods are human. But in these Grimm brothers stories, sometimes the devil is a little bit humanized. And, we also read The Devil and His Grandmother, where the devil is like almost this a little bit of a ne'er-do-well kind of can't quite get it right, not harvesting enough souls and everything.
Mhm. Yeah. I wonder if the coat being green means anything, because all I know is that the on the green is sometimes taken to mean jealousy or something.
That's right. Yeah,
So
green-eyed monster. Yeah,
yeah, so I guess when he had the coat on, he could have chosen to be jealous about other people having a regular life and
yeah,
become more bitter, but he still chose to be compassionate. But
that's
then
right.
at the end, when he shows up with his devil shows up with his green coat again, it's the sisters kind of let jealousy or whatever kind of bitterness lead to their demise.
That's right. Yeah. And the sisters are operating based on social comparison
Mm.
and competition, just like his brothers were, originally, where at the beginning of the story, he goes to them for help. He needs it. And they just, well, you're not useful, so bye.
Mm.
And his future wife's sisters kind of have this selfish, yeah, comparison and vanity attitude as well. I wonder if they can humanize the devil in these stories, if that seems to say that God is triumphant in the world, that the devil is menacing and ever threatening, but if he's a little bit of a comic character because he's just not all that scary because they have such faith in the power of God, you know.
Mm.
I wonder if thinking on a deeper level that is maybe something about how the Christian worldview is pervaded with faith and love, but is not maybe quite as concerned with wisdom. Maybe because the a criticism I've heard of Christianity is that because of the emphasis on agape love, like the love of a parent for a child, um, one could sometimes lose a little bit of the necessary self-reflection, critical self-reflection that can help wisdom,
Mhm.
because yeah, the feeling of this parent type of love of this all powerful from this all powerful God, you can maybe sometimes think, you kind of think, well, everything's just going to turn out right if I just have faith and love and just kind of keep going with like the other cardinal virtues, hardworking, persistency, honesty, etc. But if you're not um, critically reflecting on yourself, you might be projecting your own unconscious onto the world and not seeing something that you need to see to change your life in order to truly be grounded, happy, knowledgeable about yourself and the world. And then sometimes you might be projecting some part of your psyche onto the world and start to see evil in other people. Maybe even in like a minority group, the Jews or something. When you're really just not seeing that you're causing this pattern in your life. But you thought since you did everything right and you have faith and love in God that it's supposed to be turning out right. Then if it's not, then there must be somebody to blame, somebody else to blame. So it could be the devil, it could be, some group, some person in your life or something like that. So I thought that was a legitimate criticism. That's, of course, that's not to say that all Christians or even most Christians would be like that, but there could, in any type of religious or philosophical system, there could be strengths and weaknesses.
Mhm.
And this to me seemed like it's a possible weakness based on the theory and also based on my experience with Christians and Christianity. I do sometimes think have this almost, yeah, whether it's agape or whether it's even more like a kind of eros, it kind of turns into this like narcissistic self-love kind of thing, like God has be bestowed special favor on me. Rousseau writes about this in Emile, um, about how sometimes religious people start to develop this kind of narcissism about God, where it's not like they just want to participate in the love and order and truth of God, but they start to want to have special instruction, to be told what others have not been told, to have a special, to see a face of God that others have not seen, you know. Does any of this relate? Does any of this resonate with you? I mean, it resonates very strongly with me.
I guess not. I guess not so much like on a personal or kind of deep level, but I'm just on a more superficial level. I've seen like I've seen those
More pious than thou, more holy than thou. I'm closer to
I
God
see
than you.
I've seen those clips. I've seen recordings of like those
Are you going to say it's Protestants?
those really rich TV pastors. I'll say it. I'll put it
Oh
that way.
God.
I've seen videos of them preaching,
They're on
and
another level. But
yeah, it seems
haven't
like
you
an
seen
extreme
this?
level.
But haven't you seen this just in your own life and some Christians and things? Maybe
Yeah, I have.
it is more prevalent in Protestants. I don't know. I mean, that's what I mostly have experience with, but
Yeah, I've seen people say they're a man of God for like whenever they're confronted about something.
and like as if that
So
just washes away whatever was
yeah,
said before.
like
Like
that's a protective shield for like whatever criticism you may have of.
that's not even a bad argument. That's just no argument at all.
Yeah.
But you haven't seen it on a more I mean, we were talking before the podcast a little bit about you said you don't really kind of maybe think about people's psychology and categorize things and try to
Yeah, I think
maybe.
I haven't really looked for that in people on a deeper level though. So I don't think I have much experience in
But
that
I
way.
didn't even look for it. I just saw it. I mean, you don't, maybe there is sort of more maybe narcissism in my family or something, but I see some I'm in my family or in among people that I've observed that yeah, this sort I've seen it more than once of this yeah, this pious privilege where it's
Mm,
they believe that they have a closer relationship and they're of course castigating others, casting a lot of judgment outside
mm,
themselves, and they're seeing the chip in their brother's eye, but not the plank in their own eye, just to
mm,
loosely quote something Jesus said.
mm. Yeah, it's like I think my family, like we're culturally religious, but on an everyday level, like not that uh
You can't be
uh
hypocritical because you're not really openly religious anyway.
yeah. So like my family, we don't really bring up religion to try to justify or attack things really on a
Yeah,
day-to-day level.
I do think that might be. I mean, maybe listeners could chime in on this. This would be an interesting thing to kind of discuss. But I do think maybe that is more with Protestants because, you know, a lot of general criticisms of Catholics versus Protestants is Catholics don't know the Bible as well, or they rely too much on the ritual and the
Mm,
not this word, but the pomp and circumstance, basically,
mhm.
of the church and its traditions
Yeah.
to sort of feel or act out a sense of the sacred. But on the other hand, I think uh, while Protestants may in general know the Bible better as a group, it's often like an autodidactic kind of thing where the problem with autodidacticism, and I think this is a lot of the reason why the church for a long time was ambivalent about parishioners reading. the Bible by themselves. So the problem with autodidacticism is that you can form your own idiosyncratic kind of limited interpretation of things, and you don't have the input from other people to enhance your cognition. John Vervaeke talks a lot about, and I think it's true, about how we are a social species and our cognition is absolutely enhanced by discussion with others, by working with others. We are smarter in the right type of group, not when you get groupthink or something like that, but in the right type of group, we are absolutely smarter. When sociologists have studied scientists, some of them thought of science as this individual thing. It's like the scientists in the lab and they're always in their head, they're reading and everything. But no, when they study them, it's like they're talking with other people a lot. And they're reading. Of course, when they're reading, they're getting input from other people. There's a constant exchange. It's not this like individual genius only by themselves, you know. And yeah, that's the problem with autodidacts sometimes is they're going too much into their own interpretation.
Yeah, I hadn't heard of that.
Yeah, I was excited to hear that critique of Christianity of sometimes maybe being so much about agapic love and faith and maybe about law too, that sometimes the wisdom part, the self-reflective, self-critical part can lead you to, eh, if you're full of love, kind of, yeah, project your unconscious onto the world, and that can lead to bad things or just not as much real success in life as you would otherwise have with wisdom. Does the soldier in this story have wisdom? I mean, I know he obviously has a lot of skill, courage, persistence. He has this amor fati, or this kind of acceptance of fate, right? Like when he comes back from the wars, he's tradeless, and his parents are gone, his home is gone, he's lost everything. He goes to what little he has left in the world, his brothers, and they throw him out for being supposedly useless, which shows that they don't care about virtue at all. They only care about sort of, money making skill in the present. But then he goes off into a clearing, and and he's ready to die. Like he's not bitter, resentful. He's accepting fate.
Mhm. I see wisdom in that, but
Yeah, I mean, that's
and
more
then
wisdom than most of us
yeah,
can. I mean, if you have wisdom to accept your death, I mean, that's probably the greatest wisdom, right? That's a sign of
mm,
sageness already.
yeah. It's like I also kind of just saw him as kind of recognizing spiritual battle and maybe kind of being kind of even being invigorated by that.
What do you mean
Since
recognizing spiritual battle? Like,
it's like
because he
he
leaves
knew.
he leaves the regular world and he goes into a clearing, kind of a liminal space
Mhm.
outside of town in nature. There's a darkness to it, a dark
Yeah,
reality to it, and that's where he
yeah,
meets the cloven-hoofed stranger. And you're
yeah.
saying he understands, since he recognizes the devil for what he is and not a projection of what he wants. Like, oh, there's someone offering me this thing, it must be true because I want it. It's more like
Mm-hmm.
he has some distance, and he can negotiate with, he can play with the stranger.
Hmm. Yeah, so like you said, he's ready to die because and he felt he kind of had nothing left to do more in the world since wasn't useful anymore as a soldier, but then this opportunity comes and he seems to kind of want to live again too. kind of fight that spiritually and kind of redeem himself in a way and go back to the world again.
Mm.
Uh,
And fighting spiritually is like entering into the those spirit realms of heaven
mm,
and hell. You said his 7 years wandering after that is
mm,
like a descent into the underworld, right? I mean, where he
yeah.
is a wraith.
Hmm. Yeah, and he's kind of like living as a soldier again in a way.
How so? Because he can't bathe much. He is apart from others. But this time,
Well,
isn't this
not
the opposite of his soldiering in a way? Also, where he's giving money to the poor. He's gentle. He's not hurting anybody.
well, yeah, that's kind of an outcome because of how he's still compassionate, but I mean it's still very difficult to kind of he's isolating himself again and kind of away from society again for 7 years, kind of
Yeah,
like he was in actual in battle.
yeah,
And he could he could get tired of it and kind of leave the cloak or abandon it at any moment in that time, but he chooses not to.
yeah. Again, that shows his loyalty. Or is there
Mhm.
another meaning to it as well?
No, just like kind of showing his, like you're saying, his
S-
strength and
s-
courage again.
Sticking
Um,
to it.
mhm.
Is there some there's some contrast there with the other characters in the story with his brothers. His brothers aren't loyal to him. I mean, they know that they have a brother off at war. They know he's going to come back. They know the wars have ended. He does come back and they kick him out of the house.
Yeah, like they want things to be kind of convenient and easy for them. They kind of not really, they're not really
Going to
strong
be
or
put out
courageous
at all.
people or willing to go through hardship.
Right, like he is. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, he goes through hardship as a soldier. He comes back, everything's gone. Uh, and so he's gone through hardship with that now, and then his brothers kick him out of the house. Now he's all
Hmm.
alone in the world with
Hmm.
no sort of livelihood, with no money,
Hmm.
and he's enduring that. And
Hmm.
then that's when evil shows up, but he's able to turn things around and to,
Hmm.
okay, I'll take whatever he so throughout the story he takes whatever the world gives him, whatever the world beats
Hmm.
him with, and he just
Hmm.
takes it and he keeps going
Hmm.
through. He's
Hmm.
like Dumbling in the Golden Goose, you know.
Hmm. Yeah, and as a
Nothing
soldier,
sticks to
he
him.
mhm. And as a soldier, he sacrificed himself for society, and he comes back and he's rejected. So he could have taken the devil's cloak and kind of felt entitled
Yeah,
to society and whatever he wanted, but he didn't do that,
that's
and
right. Yeah, he
he.
stays humble. He
Mhm,
takes the rejection and he helps others constantly.
mhm,
Yeah, and he spreads love in the world.
mhm,
Yeah, he's as persistent with that, as vigorous with that as he was with his soldiering skills.
mhm,
But is there contrast? What was I saying? Is there contrast with his persistence and the other characters? And you pointed out with the brothers, they just want sort of what has an immediate reward. And the sisters too, maybe they're also looking at things superficially, like
mhm,
what is in front of them. They
mhm,
see the poor dirty guy with the bear skin and they just one is disgusted and turns away and the other can't really take him, but the
mhm,
third sort of sees, okay, well, he saved your life, and father, what does she say, like, you made that promise, so I have to keep it. So
mhm,
she thinks of the she's trying
mhm.
to keep the father's word.
Yeah, I think the father himself was a decent man too. So of course he felt indebted, but I think he also maybe recognized there was something about him that was kind of that was kind of good and worthy. Like he, despite his appearance.
Yeah, I would assume that too. So yeah, the story doesn't say the old man sees anything special in him, but he treats him very decently, and he is focused on the important things. Like the it says, when the old man saw himself set free from all his troubles, he did not know how to be grateful enough. Come with me, said he to Bearskin. My daughters are all miracles of beauty. Choose one of them for yourself as a wife. When she hears what you have done for me, she will not refuse you. So he knows also at least one of his daughters is very grateful as well. You do in truth look a little strange, but she will soon put you to right again. This pleased Bearskin well, and he went. Yeah. So he's a nice person. You do in truth look a little strange, I admit, after not taking a shower for what at this point it's like 4 years. But come with me. Thank you for helping me. Thank you for saving me from debtor's jail. But yeah, I thought this was a pretty good story, and yeah, as I mentioned, it reminded me of Dumbling from the Golden Goose, where we have this person who's rejected by everybody, but they're very persistent, uh, and they end up gaining some kind of help from a divine being. And funny enough, this story it's from a avowedly from the devil, but he's able to play with the devil. He's able, and he wins in the end, and he even humiliates the devil a little bit, makes him wash him. Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay, so we'll maybe choose another story next week. Yeah, maybe we'll get to the golden ass next time, or some other good story from the Brothers Grimm, or another one. Okay. Well, it was good reading Bearskin with you. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.